I found myself sitting completely naked in front of a group of strangers. I wish I could tell you that I was dreaming, but this is absolutely true. I took a job as a nude art model because I was laid off from my job in talk radio shortly after 9/11. I was told that I was let go because of corporate downsizing, but I have my own theories about the situation, which I can't delve into because I signed a 12-page confidentiality agreement when I took the job. It expressly stated that if and when my employment was terminated, the agreement prohibited me from sharing the details of the job, which would include the reasons why I believe I was fired, so I'll have to let that part go. Nude art modeling wasn't what I thought I'd be doing when I lost my job and started looking for another one. My list started with other radio and TV jobs, which dropped down to temp agencies, waiting tables, catering gigs, house sitting, and other odd jobs. It wasn't until my finances got dicey that I became willing to do something like nude art modeling. For the first 3 days of being unemployed, I laid on the kitchen floor in my underwear in a puddle of tears. I finally pulled myself together and realized that nobody would hire me in that condition, unless it was for a position as a professional mourner, and I'm not even sure there is such a thing. But either way, I had higher aspirations than that. Anyway, it was like a 1-2 punch to my stomach. I didn't have a clue what to do next. My life was in complete limbo. Since I was a child, I've enjoyed working and I have a good work ethic. While most of my friends were playing with dolls, I played office. My mother would set up a desk in the living room with a calculator, some notepads, a few pens, and a telephone. I'd sit there for hours, making business deals, trading stocks, scheduling and rescheduling appointments. When I was 12, I begged my mother to let me get a job, but child labor laws don't allow that, so she took me down to the local UNICEF store and they hired me as a volunteer. When I turned 14, which is the legal age in the state of New Mexico, I got a paying job. Being in that state of unemployment, I was at an absolute loss of what to do or think. Actually, my problem wasn't what to think, it was what not to think. I had way too much time to think. I spent my days obsessively faxing and emailing resumes, networking, and calling to follow up. And then I'd get another voicemail. The message would start to play. I'd take note of how the person pronounces their name. Then I'd hang up halfway through the recording because I'd forget what I was going to say. I'd do this 2 or 3 times. Then, out of exasperation, I'd write down what I was going to say on a 3x5 note card. Hello, my name is, I was given your number by. I'm calling because I'm interested in applying for a position as a, I would like to send you my resume. My phone number is, thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you. I take a few deep breaths, dial the number again, but there's still a moment of hesitation. Do I leave a message, or should I keep calling back to see if they might be at their desk answering the phone? But maybe they have caller ID, and they don't recognize my number, and they see that I've already called 6 times that day, and that's why they're not answering the phone. But maybe their assistant will answer. But after I leave the message, I press pound to hear more options. Listening to my message 2 or 3 times, I'd press 5 to re-record it. This time, I'd manage to sound upbeat and positive. I'd sell myself to the voicemail. You know, job hunting is a lot like fishing when you're really hungry. All this brought on another set of complications, like presenting myself in a calm and collected manner. There's that thin line between apathy and desperation. The employers have got to pick up on my drive over the phone. Once I'd leave a message, the rest of my follow-up calls would be nothing but a nuisance. But that is how I've gotten all my other jobs. I've coined this the restraining order or hired method. One typo on the resume can blow it. Say, for example, I wrote the word illegalized when I really intended to write outlawed. I noticed I did this, so I called and left a long explanation on the voicemail saying that I realized I sent the wrong resume and that I know illegalized is not a word. At this point, it was definitely time to cross off detail-oriented from my resume. After months, I was sure that it was that one word that didn't get me hired. In the meantime, illegalized had become an inside joke between a friend and me, who discovered that in an old English dictionary, illegalized is a word. I was convinced that my friend's discovery was a conspiracy to get me to stop talking about it, but for the time being, I let that go too. Meanwhile, I had to remember to keep some balance in my life. I had to remember to eat, take a walk, take out the trash, and take out the dog. Checking the mail 3 times in a day for the unemployment check does not count as leaving the apartment. Having all this time to think creates a very complex state of being. It's not like being on vacation or jury duty, where I knew that I was going back to my life as I once knew it. My life as I once knew it no longer existed. It was a memory. The comfortable pair of shoes was retired. The closest feeling I could relate this to is like sitting by the phone on a Friday night, waiting for that really cute guy to call. I gave him my number, and he said he'd call. I'm chain smoking cigarettes, pacing the apartment, and I'd keep going to the bathroom because usually when I'd sit down on the toilet, that's when the phone would ring. But it didn't ring. Why did he say he was going to call if he didn't have the intention of actually doing it? The employer, on the other hand, has my resume and a stack on his desk, if I'm lucky. He's sitting in his easy chair with 1,000 phone calls to return, and mine might be at the bottom of his list, if I'm lucky. While all this is going on, I hadn't left the apartment for 3 days. I was just sitting there expecting the phone to ring any minute. This state of being was a combination of depression, loneliness, and something much deeper. Something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I was forced to sit there with my mind, which was racing 1,000,000 miles per hour. A month before I lost my job, I had switched to drinking tea, because I thought I'd be calmer. But all concerns about calmness had left me by then. I was running on fumes. I had drunk too much coffee, forgotten to eat lunch, dinner, and breakfast. Up until a week before I got fired, all I wanted was a vacation. And so I got it. I had all the time in the world, and all I was trying to do was stop thinking. I'd pick up the phone and call the one friend who I hadn't bored to death with my whining. They'd say the same thing as the friend before. You know, it's probably a blessing in disguise. You know, one door closes and another door opens. Frantically, I'd hang up with my friend because there was the possibility that one of the potential employers tried to call while I was on the phone. I had call waiting but got rid of it to cut expenses, and truth be known, nobody ever called me anyway. And so I'd sit there some more, convincing myself that I did have the job I wanted. I just hadn't found it yet.